Welcome back, Tim Veen, to the Works Plus Tech Talk podcast. A man who needs no introduction. Tim Veen, when were you born? Tell us about yourself.
You just did introduce me.
I welcome you back. The last time you came onto the podcast was actually an apology for one of your engineering
marvels.
Let's say the ripple effect was a marvel. Welcome back. Surprised that we got you back on again after that.
Well, after the feedback we got from that segment and the amount of lawsuits that came my way from different contractors around the world trying to recoup their losses, yes, it's a very brave move of you to have me back here again, Josh.
That's what we do. Bold moves. That's what we specialise in.
It was all the clearance from our legal counsel that took all the time.
That's right. Speaking of bold moves, no, I'm not going to go on to the hair thing. Sorry. I'll keep this professional. It's been a while since new things have happened in the industry, or has it been? We've got a few things in the industry from a technical side of developments. We've got demand changes in the industry from products that are delivered on site. On top of that, we also have compliance changes in the industry. Recently, we had an article published in PDI magazine, which from my reliable sources in the marketing department tell me you were heavily involved in. What inspired that article, and what can you tell our listeners who haven't read it yet are the main points of that article?
Oh, the main points. I think the main gist of what we were probably pitching at in that article was that there's obviously a lot of change in the area of the dust space in our industry, the compliance, the scrutiny. I guess even just the talk about it has changed a lot over the last couple of years in particular. Expectations, and with all that comes a lot of confusion and maybe a little bit of misunderstanding as well. And I think what we were trying to probably the article, if I could put a label on it, was just cool heads. Cool heads.
Yeah.
We're seeing a lot of people that are particularly on the compliance end of things, project management, and people that are involved in the, not so much on the tools and doing the actual work, but in an oversight role. They're going through their training, which is all good. It's all good governance sort of work that people are doing. They're getting a taste for dust. They're doing the little module.
Yep.
And probably coming out with, it's the old saying, it's what's more dangerous than someone with a lot of power at someone with a little bit of power. So it's what's harder to work with sometimes, someone with a lot of knowledge about something or a little bit of knowledge about something. And
sure.
And I think we find ourselves tripping up over the little bit of knowledge. So people are, they're doing their OH&S training, they're going to doing their ongoing PD type stuff, they're doing their modules, they're hearing about silica dust, and they're getting a bit of a window into what that's about, but really don't understand, even from a high level, let alone the nuanced level of that subject. And I think it's causing a lot of frustrations. It's causing a lot of misunderstanding. It's causing bottlenecks that aren't necessary. But it's just part of the process that the industry is in right now. And I think what we were trying to do in the article is basically say, hey, just take a step back, just cool your jets a little bit, and let's try and create a little bit more awareness, context. And I think trying to I guess, bring a bit of our own experience into the discussion that may fit outside of the standard modular sort of training boxes people are being sort of briefed in and trained in at the moment. So trying to make it, trying to be a bit more holistic, maybe a bit more calm to the subject.
Yep.
And trying to, I guess, get the message out that the industry is in the best state it's ever been as far as this topic is concerned. I mean, we've been around for a long time, and it doesn't. You can look at any Instagram feed pretty much these days to see how much dust is actually being managed and dealt with by the industry. You know, everyone proudly shows off how many bags they've got sitting in their trailers or whatever, in skip bins and so forth. There's a lot of this has been happening for a long time, and so the industry is in the best shape it's ever been, as far as I'm concerned. As far as the technology that's out there, even what you would call the baseline equipment that people have is much better than it used to be.
Yeah, I would agree.
Because we'll probably get to this at some other point, but because it's very much productivity based now, that you need good gear. You can't have the productivity in the marketplace today if you don't have the gear. That wasn't the case in the past. Machines were slower. We were taking this dust off in longer periods of time. You could use smaller vacuums. They were easy to transport, all that kind of stuff. They were lower cost to get into the industry, all that kind of stuff. Now, if you actually want to play the game, you need better gear. Mm-hmm. So the baseline...
Someone...
We'll talk about wet grinding shortly.
Always ahead of the game, Tim. Always ahead of the game. We'll get to that when I'm ready.
That's got to be a first in Tech Talk in podcast history.
He wet me.
I think the industry is in a better place, at a better level, because the baseline equipment that people have been using, they've kind of, the market's demanded that they're using that kind of a higher capacity if they want to keep up with the industry. That's table stakes these days. So I guess the competition has driven the baseline of equipment that you need up. So for reasons like that and others, the industry is in the best state it's been. And I think one of the things that we wanted to try and come through in that article is it's not the Wild West anymore. There is a lot of comprehensive and good gear that all have specific purposes, and they're all different ways and opportunities for dealing with this issue and bringing another level or additional levels of comfort to the industry, primarily to the contractors and the professionals doing this sort of work, but obviously to associated trades and builders and everyone else that's involved. That it's actually a very developed industry, and it's a very developed customer base or contractor base these days as well, and that there are lots of ways of skinning this one and lots of layers that actually bring a lot of safety to this whole issue, and trying to, I guess, reinforce that it's not as scary and as dangerous. It's certainly not from our perspective, and we've been doing this for a long time, and than what it may be to someone that's, fresh out of uni, new to a construction company, goes their training, and all of a sudden, shit, there's dry grinding being done, and there's silica out there.
Mm-hmm.
Out there.
Yeah.
And I got to step out into that world where there's silica, Let's not forget that it's crystalline silica that is the issue, and even crystalline silica is not the issue, it's respirable crystalline silica. So all that kind of nuance, we just find ourselves, I think, at a good time in the industry, whereas there's a lot of questions being asked, there's a lot of focus, but I guess part of the article is saying the industry is actually positioned to deal with this well. And part of it is we want and we need the I guess the general knowledge from all interested parties to get to a point where they understand these things and they can see that it is in a good place and that contractors do have the right gear, and there are always ways to improve and keep doing it better. That a change in direction is not necessary because what was good in the past is only better now.
Yeah. So speaking of the past, right?
Mm-hmm.
You said we've been dealing with this for a very long time, dust.
Yep.
Now, what do you have any type of, I guess, historical data from, I guess, let's say way back when early planetary days, evolving industry days to compare with how we're performing today?
Well, we have testing that we've been doing for years when it comes to dust. And look, this is the thing, okay? As much as we wrote about in that article and as much as you can talk about the different levels of management, whether it be engineering controls, whether it be work methods and practices, PP, all that kind of stuff, right? At the end of the day, the only thing that can tell you whether you've got safe air is testing the air itself.
Mm-hmm.
You can throw everything at an environment, which could be totally overcompensating in some cases, or it could just be meeting what's necessary in other situations, right? We're all guessing. We're all guessing until we actually do proper air sampling, right? Because that's actually the thing that we're trying to control or understand at the end of the day. So I guess from our own experience, having been in the contracting area for many years and having to be dealing with this a long time ago, because we actually started this in the asbestos industry, if you remember, grinding blackjack adhesive, or cutback as they call it, I think in the States, that black adhesive off the floor that's got some asbestos content to it. We grew up grinding this stuff off the floor, thousands and thousands of square metres. We were doing that without H-class vacuums, just regular polyester filter cartridge microfilters.
It's still an industrial vacuum.
Still an industrial vacuum with lower capacity than what we have today. Lower capacity machines as well, but arguably a more hazardous material that we were dealing with, okay? And so we've been in multiple sites across the years where we've actually had air monitoring done, and we've consistently come in underneath what was considered at any time through that that period below what was the threshold limits from WorkSafe of the day, which haven't changed that much. I think the biggest major change has been in the last couple of years.
Yep.
So we have historical testing data where we've actually been testing the air, and that's the thing that matters at the end of the day, is what the air's like. Okay,
it's the stuff you're breathing in.
Yeah. So does that answer your question? We do have a backlog of history, and of course, we've always been in the position that if those results weren't coming in right, we've had the ways and means at our disposal to do something about it. Whether that mean doubling up on vacuums or different filters, or you name it. There are ways as a manufacturer we could have come up with to address that, okay? But the data wasn't telling us that. So hence, the industry's been pretty happy for a long time with the sort of size vacuums that are there with the corresponding machines that were in the market at the time. And those machines and their productivity have only really started to change recently.
Yeah, well, I guess we've got stickers now, right? We didn't have stickers back then.
Well, we had the hazard back then,
we had the hazard, yeah. But today we've got stickers.
H class and M class, those kind of stickers you're talking about?
They're the ones. They're the safety stickers.
All right. Okay.
Right. Are those stickers making the equipment safer? Is that what makes the equipment safe?
Well, no, that's all the stickers are saying is making a statement about the machine when it leaves the factory or on the production floor, basically.
Yep.
What happens to that machine after that point is very independent of the sticker.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I mean, if we've got a 5-year-old H-class vacuum that hasn't been serviced or, blown a filter and someone just pulled one out and tapped it out in the ground and stuck it back in again, it's not H-class. The sticker's worthless. So the sticker's only...
It's worthless, but it's worth everything.
Well, it can be. It depends on who's done what module of training and is looking for the right sticker on a vacuum.
Yeah.
No, look, the sticker is useful from a point of view of baseline compliance, or at least a statement saying it can deliver a particular type of efficiency. But that is a really low level measure.
Yeah.
Because then we've got to start talking about things like fit for purpose, how it's being used, has it got the capacity to the tool that it's actually being fitted to? Is the tool that it's being used being run properly? Got the right sort of skirt and shroud and all that kind of. There's so many things, but it comes back to we're in this stage at the moment where there's a high level of scrutiny and noise about this issue and a low level of knowledge. And these are the sorts of things you've got to just start with. They're the low-hanging fruit. And look, if that's the sort of thing that starts to give people comfort until the knowledge base catches up with actually the reality and understanding the application in a more fuller context, well, that's kind of just the way it is. Mm-hmm. You've got to start somewhere, I guess.
Yeah. I agree. Well, I like you're talking about fit for purpose. I like when OSHA in the United States set up their silica regulations.
So OSHA's the equivalent of our WorkSafe over here in Australia.
Yep. And WorkSafe over here is the equivalent for OSHA in America. Okay, just for our big brothers in the north. When they released theirs, they actually had as far as fit for purpose, if you were going to be using a 5-inch angle grinder, obviously with a shroud on it, had to be coupled with a dust extractor that had X amount of airflow or volume capacity. Yep. And they did that for practically every type of typical equipment that would be used on site for grinding of concrete. Yep. And I thought that was actually a really helpful place to start. Yep. And which is why I was interested to see that didn't get adopted by the WorkSafe, the WorkSafe documentation. But anyhow, maybe in the future we'll see something more like that.
No, I agree. There's some value with those types of measures.
Mm-hmm. Are there any myths in this area of the industry at the moment?
Any myths?
Yeah.
Surrounding dust?
Yeah.
Are you thinking of any in particular?
I'm not thinking of anything in particular, but I think there is like you said, for people who have just gotten into the industry recently, it seems like an extremely risky business to be involved in with every day handling this extremely hazardous particle that you cannot even see.
Yeah, I think there's...
The invisible.
Is there myths or is there confusion? I think it's probably more falls in the confusion side of things. And we sort of hinted that at the beginning. So at the end of the day, and we sort of talked about this a minute ago, the biggest issue is the issue you can't actually see, right? Pretty much every dust that you can see, whether it's on the ground, in a bag, that is, and I'm going to, don't quote me technically, that is the least dangerous dust, okay? And the reason it's the least dangerous, it's the biggest particle, it's actually heavy, okay? The types of particles the particle size that is the concern to our industry, they're not actually visible to the naked eye, okay? So they're the particles that fall in the respirable range. So when we talk about silica, there's nothing wrong with silica, okay? It's when and there's different types of silica. There's what's called amorphous silica, which is without shape, or amorphous means it's not a regular shape. And then you've got crystalline silica. So they're two different types of silica. Mm-hmm. Both of them are in, let's talk about concrete. That's our industry. You have amorphous and you have crystalline. And then within the crystalline silica, then it has to be a small enough particle that's respirable, okay? And it's the respirable crystalline silica that is our problem, okay, or the danger, the one that we need to be aware of. And that is not the respirable particle size is not visible to the naked eye. So when you see dust on a machine or on a floor, I'm not saying that's necessarily there's no danger value to that, because then the bigger the particles, they fall into what they call the nuisance category, but they're the things that get picked up by the membranes in your nose and your throat and so forth. You know, as particles go around corners, they can't keep going around the corner with the airflow, and they bang into the side of your nostril or something like that, and they get stuck there. And that's your body's natural way of filtering out those particles. You don't want to be in that environment all day long where you're putting your body under that pressure to keep filtering those and catching all those particles in your
nuisance.
In your nose and your throat and so forth. But that's what happens, right? The respirable particles are so small and so light, they'll just follow the air all the way. They won't get stuck in the inside of your nose or your throat, or even down in your thorax. So they're the ones that ends up in the bottom of your lungs. They're the ones we can't actually see.
Yeah,
they're the ones we're testing for. So I guess the myth or the confusion is this understanding between what is actually a dangerous particle and what is not, and what dust is actually prevents the biggest danger. And I would argue that if you walked into a building site and there was a little bit of dust on the floor behind the machine, okay, that technically is not that dangerous. Okay, my previous caveat, it's not good for you, but it's not dangerous. And the reason I'm saying that is because it's on the floor, okay? Yeah. The airborne particles have already been extracted from under the machine and are probably in the filter or in the bag by that stage. The ones that are sitting on the floor are there because they're the heaviest, right? They're either the heaviest because they're a big particle, or they're agglomerated, they're sort of clustered with other particles, and therefore they're not getting airborne. That's why they're sitting on the floor, right? So even though it's not the best thing to have, the chances of those particles becoming airborne and then being in the size range that is respirable becomes significantly diminished, at least from my experience and from my perspective. Okay, I'm not suggesting that's good work practice to have dust sitting all over the floor, but that's just the reality of the physics in this conversation. So I think to your question, is it a myth or is it just a misunderstanding? People are pointing fingers probably at, within the context of what we're talking about, the safest part, the safest dust in the range that we're actually talking about or that we should be concerned about.
Yeah. But I suppose if you did happen to walk onto a site and there was a significant amount of dust on the floor behind the machine, it's probably telling you that there are other mechanical measures that should have been taken care of before getting to this. That's not exactly the safest work practices that are on display.
No, because if
the attitudes.
If a gust of air comes through the place and does stir some of that up into the air, again, they're probably not respirable particles, but they're still not the greatest things. That your body, you're still subjecting your body to undue duress.
Still not healthy. Still not it's still something you would want to avoid anyway.
Yep.
Would you say there's any? Would you say that there's any? I guess. I mean, we've talked about the type of dust. We've talked about obviously you can't see the most harmful dust. Has there been any work done that you are aware of on sites where there's not necessarily concrete grinding being done on site, and what are the I guess the ambient air readings in a general construction site?
I'm not aware of that. I think it's a very hard thing to do because even air testing, the assumption is it's being done in some sort of enclosed room, right? Where so many of the building sites, particularly when most of the grinding is being done, is they don't have windows in them or doors. Like there's the air replacement, okay? And that's what's really important here is the more air that you're replacing, if there is particles in the air, they're being diluted essentially because the air's being replaced all the time. So the ventilation and the air replacement that's happening under most construction sites is very high.
Yep.
So it's almost futile trying to test in a lot of these sites just because of the fact that there's so much air replacement and air flow. You actually can't get an accurate understanding of what's being contributed because if something's being contributed, it's being moved on through circulation.
So it could be the guy grinding in the next suburb.
Well, again, the reason you need to do a proper air monitoring is because there are air meters. There's lots of air meters available in the marketplace now that will test particle sizes down to and give a live particle count. We'll say how many particles are in the air at this current time that are in the particle size of a respirable crystalline silica, but they can't distinguish between is this a crystalline silica or is this a piece of diesel particulate from a generator outside or the freeway down the road, or is it from a bushfire particle from a fire burning off somewhere?
Could be 100 miles away.
So the live particle counters will tell you whether there's something in the air of that particular size, but again, they cannot differentiate or just distinguish between one type of particle, what its composition is, compared to another one that's in that size. That's why you need to, run your air monitors where they're literally sucking the air through a filter, and that filter gets sent away, and then they actually break it down and go, okay, of all the particles that were in this respirable size that we've captured here, only this % were respirable crystalline silica, and the rest were diesel or ash or whatever the heck was, something from the gravel in the car park being a construction site or plaster dust.
And I'm assuming this is all stuff that you've seen come out in the results of testing, all of these different particles that actually accumulate on the test.
Yeah, well, when you get a test result, they give you the spectrum evaluation basically of what's in there.
Yeah,
unless you're just specifically asking for respirable crystalline silica content. But most of the analysis these days will tell you the full spectrum of what's coming through.
Okay. So you've done a fair bit of work on this stuff. In the position that you operate in at Works Plus, you work in R&D, do a lot of the designing and that sort of stuff. You also get a lot of telephone calls from contractors and the like, asking questions about, in particular, I've got new compliance coming down the line, or I'm actually on an active site and this is what I'm being told I need to do, or I need to fix this, how do I do that, that type of stuff. I'm only assuming these are all the types of things these conversations that lead to innovation in this space at Works Plus.
They actually lead me to people far smarter than I am. I don't know if you call it innovation, but
they lead you to people far smarter than you.
Yeah, I need them.
So, what drives innovation more? Compliance, or I guess a desire for results, or is it both?
Well, it's preferable to have them both. The two birds with the one stone, that one.
Where the two birds end up dead.
The two birds end up dead. That's saying, I think we can talk about work practices or work methods, how you can improve your productivity, but improve safety in this area at the same time. that's a bonus, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the I think every good industry is always looking for efficiency improvements.
Yep.
But not at the expense of safety.
Yep.
So if you can tick both boxes at the same time, I think we've always been definitely driven by the opportunity of improved productivity or efficiency or economy. So I'll give you a really simple example of that is the difference between fully dry grinding and semi-wet grinding. So we talk a lot about
when you talk semi-wet, what do we say?
So when we talk about semi-wet, we talk about we're fully saturating a concrete surface. So we're still grinding through it dry. The floor is dry once the machine passes over it, but the machine is heading into a floor that's heavily moist, if not wet. Okay, so that does three things really. It improves the efficiency because the metals will work better.
They'll work better because
of the cooling.
The cooling,
so
yep.
they'll
Just wanted to
they'll
clarify
hold
that.
a better shape. So they'll leave a better scratch profile and they'll work more aggressively, which means you can increase your forward speed faster. You can cover the floor faster. Because you're creating additional abrasive with the water and the dust, you can actually run a slightly harder diamond tool setup, which means you're going to get a higher square meterage rate or square meterage life off your tooling. So your cost per square meter goes down from a tooling point of view. And the dust is moist, so it stays heavy. So there's far less risk or opportunity for it to go up into the air because it stays moist. So you're ticking three boxes at one time. Compared to just trying to flat out grind dry, you're not getting the benefit of any one of those.
Yeah, gotcha. Why isn't your recommendation to just grind wet?
Because I think it adds a whole lot more labour. Your vacuum is your labourer. It increases a lot of the management to do a slurry is so much more than dust in my perspective. It's horrible to work. Look, we grew up doing tens of thousands of square metres of terrazzo in shopping centres fully wet.
Yep.
And we had two machines running and one full-time labourer the whole time. It's an expensive way to do things. It's a messy way to do things. And it puts a lot of additional strain on your machines as far as all your, it's the pH of slurry rusts all your zinc-plated surfaces, and it's just horrible stuff. Maintenance
none of these seem to satisfy my safety needs, Tim. You're thinking about the machines getting rusty. Well, what about my lungs? I think it's a bit of a fallacy too, isn't it? If you're grinding wet, that there's you're not going to be creating any harmful dust, but it's actually much more difficult to control the dust particles once that slurry becomes dry, because it's very, very difficult to get rid of every part of slurry off of a surface, but it's also very difficult, like you said, to keep it off the machines, off the equipment, off the clothes and all that sort of stuff. And I think that's also a danger within itself, because it creates this expectation that we did it wet, it's fine, no problem, no longer a hazard. You get rid of the bulk of it. Let's say, for instance, you've got a terrazzo, like you mentioned, it's still a fairly porous material once it's been ground, in which case you could go over it multiple times with an auto scrubber if you wanted to later, but then you've got forklifts driving over it all day. And the cooling system's just blowing hot air onto the ground, and we've seen it on sites before. You just got this cloud of dust that's actually been generated from the slurry that was left on that floor.
Yep.
That's without even talking about what gets collected in the fabric of clothing and that sort of stuff.
Well, you get much dirtier wet grinding, I've always found, and most people are not changing their gear before they hop into their ute or their van or whatever, their truck to drive home, and now that's all coming out of the pants into the foam in the seats, and every time they're hopping in and out of the van, it's just puffing out of the seat, into the cabin. Yeah, so you sort of you're transferring from one place to another in many cases.
So it's almost, I guess, easiest to control when it's dry.
Yeah, I think so.
To influence its where it ends up.
The management, the total management of the materials is easier dry.
Yeah, that's interesting. Considering what the alternative is, you should be cutting wet in order to reduce the hazard.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. How much more do you want to talk about dust?
Not much.
I can't even see the stuff that's hazardous, and we're still talking about it. What else is new then? You're not making springs anymore, or are you going to be talking to us about a new spring for a head?
Would you like one? The guys are looking for something to do at the moment.
Why don't you tell us about how a new product starts at Works Plus?
How it starts?
What's the process look like?
Usually it starts with a problem or an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Depends what's in the queue.
Yeah.
A new product is always falling into problem or opportunity. There's a problem in the marketplace, we need to solve it, or we can see a problem coming, same deal. Or there's an opportunity where there's a better way to do something, there's a new material, there's a component there that's a whole lot more compact. I mean, let's just quickly, for instance, the permanent magnet motors, we've got 22 kilowatts in a machine. There's no way you could have designed a machine that was practical and transportable with 22 kilowatts in it 10 years ago.
Yeah, right.
So you've got the technological evolution where either, in this case, something's become more compact or something now trickles down from a volume or mass. The mass market, consumer market makes something scalable, and therefore that technology now is available in a more niche marketplace like ours. So we can start applying components or technology that were just way too expensive in the past to develop for such a small marketplace or industry. AI is a perfect example of that. It's been developed for all the devices, all the phones and tablets and computers and so forth, and now we can start getting some of the benefit of that even into our small industry. So evolutions in technology and trends represent opportunities for new ways of doing things sometimes. So it always falls into one of those categories. Obviously, if it's a problem. It gives us something very tangible to work with and try and solve. I'm just trying to think of a good example of, you probably think of something.
Well, I heard
more
a rumor
recently.
I heard a rumor the other day that the GK project was started in ChatGPT. Is that true? But it came up with an image with 4 heads, and you just thought, this is not going to work.
That was for our Tasmanian version. That was the T in ChatGPT, I think.
Oh,
stands for Tasmania.
Gotcha, right. So, well, I would have thought that even the radio control that we have today on the GKs, it's that the level of technology and smarts that you have in that is, if we had tried to do that 10 years ago.
Yep.
Actually, we did.
Yeah, well, I think we started.
And we actually walked away from that project more than 10 years ago, greatly because of the cost involved in trying to get a project like that off the ground at that time.
Yeah, it was very expensive, and it didn't have near the amount of features that we've got. There were no screens back then, so all the information and the menus and so forth that we've got built into the screens wasn't possible. It was buttons and dials in those days. So it's, if someone would have told us back then that we'd be able to have a radio control with a fully colour screen, programmable screen the size of it is, with the resolution that it is, with the capabilities that it has, for for moving graphics and all that kind of stuff. We probably wouldn't have believed it back then. So, those sorts of things present huge opportunities.
In your opinion, is the industry moving fast enough?
I think I was just thinking about this earlier. I think one of our challenges is I think the industry is moving very quickly, and when I say quickly, it's not necessarily, though it is growing. It's definitely growing still, but it's growing in the range of finishes as well. So if you go back 5, definitely 10 years, but even with 5 years, polished concrete, mechanically polished concrete, certainly our marketplace here, kind of only meant one thing, and it was usually a fully exposed decorative type finish. Anywhere from 400 up. It usually meant gloss, high aggregate exposure, tight surfaces. Blah blah blah. And it's very easy to train. When I say easy, you're training people to do one type of process.
Yep.
And it was more a matter of how far you took that process or where you stopped the process, right? We're seeing a huge the growth's been in finishes. There's been so many more finishes that are required now, or that either from a cost point of view or because of architectural trends, things like that. So you're seeing a lot more surface polishing, which we weren't seeing a decade ago. It was all flat grinding, aggregate exposure. We're seeing different slip rating requirements, P2s, P3s, P4s, P5s, all that sort of stuff. So there's been a big growth in the types of finishes or the end results that people are after. And I think one of our challenges is the skill base in the industry isn't expanding fast enough to meet that all the time.
Yeah, right.
So we're throwing in new machines and new technology. So people are getting their heads around radio controls and all the different features and benefits that come with that. But then on the same time, they're trying to also keep up with the changing demands in the actual floor finish that's being asked for as well. Plus, then throw in the costing of that. How do I price that? How do I work out the economy of something that I don't really have a lot of experience doing? So it was really easy when I was doing 800, 1,500 square metre. 1,500 get finish every day. Could do that with my eyes closed, right? Week in, week out, knew exactly how many square metres I could do. Now I'm being asked for this on one project, this on other ones, different tools. So you need the skill to, I think we're seeing we're probably hitting our head against that, whereas there's a lot more demand for different finishes, and with different finishes require different sealers and things like that as well. But people having the ability to pivot or to go from one finish to another and still know how to get great performance out of the tool, right? Because sometimes now we're using different tools for that particular finish as well. It was. We went through a period there where it was basically just a straight out of the box solution.
Yep.
And I think we're moving away from that again. So we sort of, in our first decade in the industry, we were trying to put a process together that was replicatable, that was dependable, that was easy to train and roll out. 15 years. Then we had that period sort of from 2008 sort of thing through to 2018, 10 years of stability where it was basically the same process everywhere, residential, retail. It was
only one demand.
And now it's like, okay, now it's going wide again. So we tried to bring this funnel to a head to make it simple, and we had this nice narrow pathway. Now it's broadening again.
Yep.
And I think that's part of what we're really challenged by with an industry is being able to adapt, whether it be from a technology point of view and a tooling point of view and chemicals, all that kind of stuff, and having the skill there that can adapt and be flexible enough to get good results and economical sort of outcomes, and still being able to deliver a product that is complementary to our industry. that is supporting the demand and reinforcing why this is still a great way to a great floor finish or a great surface to have in your facility.
You mentioned something in there,
Slip ratings.
Mm-hmm.
What's driving the demand and what makes this complex?
I actually don't know. I think it's a governance thing up high up in governance and compliance in some of these big companies, whether it's coming through their insurance and their actuary departments and so forth, or whether it's architects, I don't know 100%. I haven't really, I'm not involved in that sort of part of the food chain. But I would presume it's got to do with the risk management departments in a lot of these companies these days. So I think that's what's driving it. Why is it complex? It's complex because we've always been focused on a mechanical process for a finish, so i.e. not a finish achieved by some sort of topical product, whether it be an epoxy or a polyurethane or some sort of coating where the actual finish is being achieved by the application of a polymer basically to a surface. So that's pretty easy to satisfy if you're putting down a coating, because it's going to come down to some sort of texture from
it is on
from
day
the
one,
applicator or a grit or something like that. An anti-slip that's been put into the coating or broadcast into it later, whatever. When you are trying to get a certain slip rating from a mechanical finish, it comes very much down to the surface texture, surface profile. And to do that, you need to be able to ensure that you can get a tool, basically a scratch pattern, the same scratch pattern, and I'm talking about things like the depth of the scratch and the regularity of the scratch, the same across all surfaces.
potentially with different machines.
Potentially with different machines. And of course, you could have a concrete with a granite aggregate in it compared to a blue metal or a limestone or whatever. So you've got all these different hard materials that are affecting your tooling. And this sort of comes back to the point I was making before. You need to be able to get the scratch, the texture, the profile you're leaving in the floor to get a certain slip coefficient comes very much down to being able to regulate the consistency of the scratch that tool's developing, is delivering.
Mm-hmm.
And even within the context of one particular slab, that can be difficult for some contractors, because the tool could start out really well, but if they're not, haven't got the machine dialed in properly, now we're starting to stress it with too much temperature in the tools, it's starting to glaze over, we're not getting the same profile anymore, blah, 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 blah.
I'm speeding it up because I'm trying to meet the demands of handover.
Yeah, so you've got all the compression of timeframes with projects. So this is a difficult one. It's actually easier to train people to grind and polish a floor to a 1500 finish, mechanical decorative type process, than to deliver a consistent P2 or P3 or P4 or whatever the specification has to be. So I think that's a big part of the challenge. Second big part of the challenge is when you're talking about those types of finishes, let's just call it sort of P3, P4. That's in that safety, that safety category that a lot of architects or facility owners are looking for when it comes to risk mitigation. They're usually talking about P3, P4 type finish. It's leaving the floor a lot more exposed or a lot more open, which means now we have to use different types of sealers. One, to make the floor look good, because you're not getting the colour from the polishing process anymore, so your floor's looking much more dull. You're not getting near as much opportunity to densify the floor as you were in the conventional polishing process. So the resilience of the floor is not as good.
It's compromised.
And then it's more porous. So you need really good sealers to try and get more colour out of it, to get high stain protection and to give the surface a bit more integrity for some of the other chemicals that it hasn't received.
Mm-hmm.
And those sealers also affect the slip coefficient as well. So it's a complicated one to get. It's an easy one to get to nail if you don't care what the floor looks like.
Yeah.
But usually these clients, they want
something appealing.
They want something that looks really aesthetically good, but has the slip coefficient that usually is incompatible with the type of finish they're after.
And budget.
But it's concrete. It should be possible, right? It's just concrete at the end of the day. It's cheap.
Look,
stuff on the floor.
10 years ago, I saw you turn it from this crud to this thing that looked like stone. And now you're telling me that you can't wave your magic wand over it and make my other dreams come true. Come on. Yeah, fair enough. When you've been showing off for the last 10, 15 years, they expect miracles from you when you don't deliver those miracles.
Yeah, so that's another sort of, I think, interesting stage we're in as an industry. And I hope that will sort of work its way through the system like the dust issue will over time.
Mm-hmm.
And the floor owners will start realising that the benefits just aren't there.
Mm-hmm.
Compared to the longevity and the aesthetic that they get out of it.
Yeah, how do we weigh those up?
A more refined product.
Yeah.
But that's just where we are at the moment. But it's difficult and it puts a lot of more pressure on contractors because they do need to be able to adapt and respond to particularly to tooling performance and to know how to manipulate a tool to get the right outcome. And when you've been 10 years doing same old sort of thing, at a well-oiled machine, and like most of these guys are, and they do a great job of it. It's a bit of a curveball.
Yeah, fair enough.
And then you have to measure it. It's a bit like the air monitoring we were talking about before. You know, how do you know you've got it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you need a $10,000 machine, or you got to keep paying someone X dollars to come in and tell you you're not quite there yet.
That happens with just about everyone I hire. They always tell me I'm just not there yet. I didn't need to hire you to tell me that. That sounds like a pretty high risk proposition. When that comes across the board, yeah, we need this, and it's got to be P3. As a contractor, we also want you to put in your lowest price, and then you're going to need to take on some considerable risk here.
Well, you just do it to a 30 grit finish and you walk away. It's about managing the expectations, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And like you mentioned some just before, as far as expectations from a skill set perspective, expectations from a cost to even be able to spit out that number in the first place in a sample, then to be able to extrapolate that over an entire project and satisfy all the compliance requirements. At the same time, not making any dust.
Mm-hmm. Or money. Because they want it for nothing these days.
Yeah, they want it for nothing too. All right. Well, we've talked about that stuff. Talked about dust. We've talked about P3. Probably it's funny that that's come up because I think it's the two topics that from a tech support perspective are probably the ones that we get hit on the most as far as new topics is concerned. I did ask you about how a new product starts. Didn't seem like I got a real good answer out of that one, but I guess we'll leave that. It's part of
said problems, opportunities, or
yeah, and then what? What do I have an idea for a product, Tim. I've got a problem. What do I just put it in the chat box on the website and you'll get it?
No, we do from time to time get really good ideas from suggestions from the people that we have the privilege of working with in our industry.
You mentioned before, say 10 years ago, we wouldn't have been able to build a machine with 22 kilowatts in it, packaged that way. thanks to technology.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other engineering compromises in a product that you've had to make that you really regret?
Besides spring stills? I think we've covered that. I did a whole episode on that one.
I just want to know if there was anything else that we should tearing off our machines. Or even machines or technology that didn't come to market.
Oh, there's heaps of stuff that didn't come to market. Our challenge is always, our product is one of trade-offs.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say it's one of trade-offs, we're not making a static piece of equipment to stand in a factory.
Yep.
And it only has to get in there once, be set up once, installed and commissioned, and then it's good for 20 years, So in which case you're not so bound by size or, costs of transportation, all those sorts of things, right? We are always sort of backed into halfway into a corner because we want more power, we want bigger, we want more productivity, we want features, but every time you go more power and you go bigger and so forth, you make it heavier, which means you've either got a way of controlling the weight, because the heavier you make it, the more power you need, right? Because the more weight there is on the diamond tooling and so forth, more friction's created. So, or people still want to be able to get up on their tailgate loaders or into the back of their vans or things like that. So it's got to be compact because they want to use it in a residential environment and a commercial environment.
Mm-hmm.
They still want to get into a bathroom,
yeah,
but they want to be able to do a 5,000 square metre factory as well with the same piece of equipment. So it's this constant game of trade-offs, like, pick your battle basically. What can you live with, and what absolutely has to be right, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
There's no perfect solution. We think we've got pretty close. But there is, we can point to our machine and say, look, if there was some magical way of having a frequency inverter half the size that would still put out that kind of performance, then we would be able to change our chassis size by X amount of percent. And then we would make that customer over there happy, because that was the one main thing they didn't like about the machine was how big the box is, for instance, etc.
Speaking of the one thing that a customer didn't like about a machine, this is a question I'm asking on the behalf of Ollie from Fluoro Epoxy in South Australia.
Hi, Ollie. Thanks for your question. No comment.
No forehead.
No forehead machine?
No forehead machine.
No.
Why not? Will there be a forehead machine?
You're the grinder series guy, Josh.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to...
Did you test a forehead machine in your grinder series?
I wanted it to come from your the horse's mouth.
I don't have anything against forehead machines per se.
Mm-hmm.
They do have some, at the end of the day, the more abrasives you can get on the floor with the right pressure on them, the more productivity you're going to get, okay? The reason we are making a three-head machine predominantly, and I think we might have discussed this in the past somewhere, certainly on more rougher undulating floors, three-head machine is definitely a more stable machine to run. It's better for the actual running gear of the machine. From that point of view, I just feel like you have more options to follow a floor contour easier with a three-head machine because you've got that tripedal effect compared to a four-head machine. There's less tooling required, generally speaking, because you're only tooling up three heads instead of four.
Oh, there's a missed opportunity.
It is actually there is a cost saving because your pulleys and your bearings and all that kind of stuff. You're cutting a little bit of cost out. Not that we have built a machine that's been pitched at cutting cost out. We've actually put a lot of cost into the machine with all the tech and the components and so forth that we've jammed into it. For me personally, I just feel like there are just a few more advantages to a three-head machine, even from a user point of view. It's just it opens up the versatility of the machine just that little bit wider than a four-head than I've found four-head machines to do.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so then my next question, what would you redesign today?
What would I redesign?
Just an opportunity for you to say that you'd do it a four-head. Anything that a product that came out in the past that you wish came out differently. You'd read it. I know that you'd redesign everything differently. I mean, like
I wish the original HTC machines came out differently. Then we would never be in this position today. We'd still be on the tools, Josh, living the contractor life, the dream, running around with our HTCs. But they just weren't. The early ones just weren't built for the job. So you would have
redesigned someone else's product differently. Got you. I think you did that.
I probably still have coloured hair or colour in my hair.
All right, fine. No regrets.
What would I redesign? I'd love to get back to the screw-on diamonds.
Bolt-ons.
Trapezoids. They were just fantastic. Yeah, we took a turn there we probably should have never have taken. And we should have
All right, so I don't need to ask you what it is about that. Well, what technology excites you? Obviously, it's that. On a personal note, what keeps you motivated to do what you're doing?
I got a brother who's 6 years younger than me that I work with, that I've got to sort of keep up with.
Could you try?
Got to see him through his retirement. What keeps us motivated? Look, I think we're in a great industry, and we get to work with practitioners, contractors, customers, whatever you want to call them, that love what they do. We're part of a community where people are really into their craft. And I think part of what motivates me, there's lots of ways to answer that question. What motivates me, I come to work and there's a great team of people here, best team of people I've ever worked with every day in a great environment. That's very motivating in itself. But you still need to be doing something. You still need to be part of an industry. I happen to really love the application. I love what our combination of technologies do, and I love the exploratory process of finding new ways of doing that and meeting the market. I love working with our customer base that this is not just a job for most of our customer base. It's not like they're just there to connect a pipe or fit off a plug and go home. They're actually into what they do. And I guess we're a niche industry. We're a small industry. There's not a lot of big players. So we get to make a meaningful difference in the area in which we work, in the industry in which we work. We're not just it's measurable, I think. And I think it's pretty rare when you are in a position where you can actually make a contribution. I couldn't imagine if I was, if I wanted to start up a plumbing company, I'd be up against the Reeses of this world and the Swans. And if I wanted to get in the grocery industry, I'm up against Woolies and Aldi and Coles, and what difference am I going to make there type thing. So I think we have we've got a lot of really good things that we get to enjoy on a daily basis, whether it be from the place we come through to the people we work with, to the products and the technologies we get to explore and develop and hopefully bring our industry forward and solve some problems and make a better life for the people that are coming along or that we're travelling with. It's hard to know sometimes whether they're travelling with us or we're travelling with them, but I think it's a bit both ways. So that's pretty motivating and rewarding as well.
Yeah.
And I can't really do anything else.
So yeah, well,
sometimes the harsh realities of life are motivating just in themselves. Not good for anything else, basically.
Well, yeah, and we can I guess an example of that was when we moved factories. It was probably about 6 months that you just kept on going back to the old one until we finally retrained you to come to the new one.
Yeah. I'm pretty slow on the uptake.
Can't do anything else.
It's a dumb concrete grinder at heart, Josh. Not that anyone else is out there that's a dumb concrete grinder, just this one.
Do you have a favourite tool? What do you reckon is the best tool?
The best tool, the one that's not out in the market yet.
Oh,
It's always the case.
We can't talk about it? Or,
that's my job, isn't it? To find the next best thing. If I'm not finding the next best thing, then we'd just be stuck with the same thing. My favourite tool, full set of twin soft 30s, Josh.
Oh, you better not. Get out of here.
I'm still waiting.
Get out of here.
I'm still waiting for the tech talk on that one.
I've tried to do that, but I get so angry. I mean, look at the podcast studio. We're in a new podcast studio today because we tried to have that podcast a couple of weeks ago. We're still repairing the place.
So when you say a favourite tool, you're talking about like diamond tool? Or
what's the favourite? What's your favourite diamond tool to work with? It's just like once you get dialed in, or what I'm not going to influence it. What's your favourite diamond tool?
My favourite diamond tool would be probably the 1500 Flex pad.
Really?
Yeah. Because that is just like laying glass. When you get to the 1500 with that Flex and you're running over a really well-profiled 800, it's just like laying glass. That is where it all comes together. That's where the job satisfaction is for me.
That's a 7,500 RPM for you.
I'm a full gloss, full decorative exposure guy, and when I sorry, I just thought that maybe that could have been interpreted a little bit differently. No, I do stay clothed all the time at work. I'm not that kind of exposure. All right. 1500, I love it. Every time I get to pull a 1500 pad out, which is not very often because I normally spend most of our time developing tools earlier in the system because that's where the productivity gains generally are. But 1500 just finishes the floor, and there's your job satisfaction right there.
Mm-hmm. And you just rarely get to do it, right?
Correct.
Far out. Finally got to finish something. That's nice. What does success look like for you in 10 years? What does that look like?
That would be you being able to retire. So that means I can get out of the game as well, Josh. I just covered that one before.
I actually thought you were going to say that would be me being able to do a 1500 grid polish.
It's probably the next time I get to pull them out. 10 years' time. Look, I guess it's just to keep enjoying what we're doing. Mm-hmm. And if I'm motivated to keep coming here and keep doing this and keep getting to do it with the people and the industry that we've been talking about, that's pretty satisfying.
So your tenure here could be indefinite.
Yeah, well, we've got ideas for products. We're growing into other marketplaces. We've got next generation of family members getting involved in the company. We've got, great members of our team taking initiative and responsibility for certain parts of the businesses that traditionally we've had to do in the past. So it's fun. There's good things going on.
Sounds like it's just starting to warm up.
In a way it is.
Yeah.
In a way it is. With the GKs are brand new in the marketplace too. That's the first iteration, Having said that, we didn't change our first Machining King concepts for a long, long time. But I don't think the R&D team are going to allow us to keep this one the same as it is for 10 to 15 years. There's too much restless ambition there. So that's a good thing. So, yeah, look, having I think we're in an exciting period. We've got competency. We talked a bit about before there. There are gadgets, there are components, there's technology, there's stuff out there that is coming into our industry that we can actually start having a play with and do some pretty fun and exciting things. So if we can keep coming out with market improving products, helping build our market and taking it forward, trying to stay on the front foot with everyone else that's trying to push this market forward and make it better, then that's all pretty motivating.
That's pretty cool. We've held you up for about an hour and a half. which means that we've probably prevented a few products from coming out.
Well, we can book another one in 10 years' time if you like.
Well, Brittany, if you wouldn't mind putting it into the calendar for the Tech Talk in 10 years' time, we're having Tim back for a follow-up. Just to check in on what colour hair he has, if he still has. Always a pleasure, Tim. Thank you for giving us a bit of an insight into, I guess, what goes on behind the scenes, the types of challenges that you have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, not just the running of a business, but the staying ahead of the curve, keeping up with the, I guess, the curve balls that keep on coming at you that you don't have control over, and staying on path with the ones that you do.
It's a dim, dusty, musty place, the R&D department, but it was good to get out and talk to you a bit more, Josh. Thanks for that.
Tim, I'm sure the guys in the R&D department will be listening to this, and now they know how you feel about them. You better go back and apologise.
They're glad that they'll be very happy that you've kept me away from them for the last hour and whatnot.
Well, time to get back and see what they built. Thanks again for being on the on the podcast with us.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure.
This show is proudly supported by Works Plus. Works Plus brings total solutions to all concrete grinding and polishing contractors to make it totally work for their daily operations. We hope you've enjoyed this show. Make sure to tune in each week where we're going to dive deep into all things related to concrete grinding and polishing. We're here to help you so that you can boost your outcomes on the floor.